Happy holidays, everybody, and Tony here with my review of Puccini's Madama Butterfly, which I saw last night at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. The conductor was Yi-Chen. The production was done by Pier Luigi Samaritani. The assistant director was Gerlinde Pelkowski, and the chorus master was Thomas Richter. I was really excited to see this particular production of Puccini's Madama Butterfly because I wanted to see, hear, and witness Barno Ismatullaeva performed the role of Cho-Cho-san. But before I get to her singing, a few words about the production. I thought it was absolutely elegant and really aesthetically pleasing to the eyes. I do enjoy the usage of all of those silken sheets to emit a sense of mysticism, mystery, and also use it as a sort of fog or cloud-like effect to show that it's at first something that is mysterious, but it's also something that can be beautiful at the same time. Pure white would indicate that it's something foggy or cloudy, but when using the slightly warmer colors or the brighter colors like orange or pink or even baby blue, it's something that's supposed to represent love or a lot of joy. And then when the Bonze, Cho-Cho-san's uncle, arrives, there is that red sheet accompanied by a flame to show his anger against Cho-Cho-san for abandoning her Shinto faith. And that to me is a thrilling effect that also shows that you don't need too much exaggeration to show that this is something that is absolutely serious. For Pinkerton's and Cho-Cho-san's romance together after all that commotion, there's also the use of the night sky as well as that falling white sheet that falls upon them. And then when Cho-Cho-san ends up committing harakiri at the very end, it's not just her dying, but her being suckered in by that cloud-like white sheet to show that she is entering the spirit realm. So there's a lot of beauty about this production that shows that it can use that absolutely gorgeous aesthetic for a purpose. One for mystery, one for love, and especially when Cho-Cho-san is still at her most youthful, one for anger for the Bonze, one for romantic intimacy between Pinkerton and Cho-Cho-san, and finally one for death when Cho-Cho-san ends up committing harakiri. So there's a lot to root for in Pier Luigi Samaritani's production of Cho-Cho-san, and the costumes were absolutely gorgeous. They're traditional costumes in terms of how the libretto portrays them to be, as well as how they are as characters. Therefore, Pier Luigi Samaritani's production of Puccini's Madama Butterfly at the Deutsche Oper Berlin is quite the magnificent sight for the eyes, as it is aesthetically gorgeous and absolutely beautiful in its own credible way. And now we get to the singers, starting off with Barno Ismatullaeva as Cho-Cho-san. I've been quite curious to see how she was going to fare in this particular role. One, because I've seen her career grow from being a purely full lyric soprano to nowadays taking slightly more lyrico spinto roles, and Cho-Cho-san is certainly no exception. She has a crystalline and silvery voice that just radiates throughout the theater. There was a lot of shimmer in her voice. Granted, when she started, there were times that her head voice and chest voice coordination was a little bit on the shaky side, but she got way better in the second half of the first act, as well as all throughout of the second act, where she was able to go all out with her coordinated chest tones, her fabulous use of head voice and really good chest tones. There was that youthfulness and silvery beauty that she continued to maintain all throughout the opera, and that is something that I have to applaud her for. While I can never forget the likes of Mafalda Favero, Licia Albanese, Maria Sciaboltori, Maria Callas, and Virginia Tseyani as my personal favorite Chocho sons, unless I forget about Montserrat Caballé or Mirella Freni or Maria Chiara, I still have to give Barno Ismatullaeva good amounts of credit for what she was able to accomplish. She can benefit from further developing her coordinated chest tones, especially with her aria Un bel di vedremo. And while it was still well sung, I could still feel like she could use a lot more coordinated chest tones with that particular aria, but that's a small dent to pay for what is otherwise an extremely gorgeous, soulful, and really committed performance of Chocho-san. Attilio Glauser was her Pinkerton, and his tone continues to grow stronger and stronger every time I listen to him. Granted, that metallic quality in his voice can make him sound a little bit more effortful, especially in some of the higher notes, but when he unleashed all of his tones with pure abandon and did so with a whole lot of amazing commitment. That is just how much of a pro Attilio Glauser truly was as Pinkerton. He delivered all of the vocal goods, and therefore he made sure that he delivered his performance of Pinkerton with chutzpah and passion and confidence, much like how the likes of Daniele Barioni or even Richard Tucker did. But this time it's a youthful and absolutely virile voice which continues to grow in manliness and therefore continues to win my best interests as the listener and the viewer. Thomas Lehmann continues to exercise a great deal of virility, nobility, and handsomeness as Sharpless. I've always admired Thomas Lehmann as a baritone, no surprise, and his efforts as Sharpless remain absolutely unparalleled. He's been performing this role for quite some time, so he does understand the psyche of the character, the vocal demands of this character, as well as everything that makes him an absolutely interesting, warm-hearted, and wonderfully fascinating character. There was not one vocal fault that I spotted with Thomas Lehmann, and for that, I salute him for all that he has to provide as such a sterling singing actor. Karis Tucker as Sutsuki, with her trademark creamy toned and luscious mezzo-soprano voice, grew in a lot of coordination, good chest tone use, and a whole lot of charm. She continues to exercise a great deal of musicianship as a consummate singing actress, and she continues to be thoroughly winsome as an overall performer. Burkhard Ulrich is charismatic as Goro, all thanks to his trademark character tenor voice and superb acting skills, which I continue to applaud him for. Jörg Schörner was surprisingly resonant as the Prince Yamadori, with his trademark character tenor voice being put to fine use for this particular character. And then we have the pleasure of having Lucy Baker deliver such a creamy toned and velvety Kate Pinkerton with that wonderfully elegant stage presence and a whole lot of charm to boot. Paul Min-hyung-ro may not be the most uber-imposing of Uncle Bonzes ever, but what he was able to do was have a sturdy stage presence as well as good vocal skills to make this character come into life in his own special way. and therefore I salute him for his efforts at making this role his own. Navarsad Hakobian was sturdy as the Imperial Commissioner. Benjamin Dickerson was also just as sturdy and strong as the marriage clerk. And Sung-un Oh, Yonghiko Asahiwada, and Arik Grushovnik were absolutely sterling as Cho-Cho-san's mother, her cousin, her aunt, and her child, Dolore or Sorrow, respectively. So overall, the singing was thoroughly brilliant from everybody. And I have to hand it to Barno Ismatullaeva for such a stirring portrayal of Cho-Cho-san, all thanks to her gleaming, crystalline, and silvery lyric soprano voice that just shot throughout the theater with pure abandon and did so with a lot of brilliance and a lot of charisma. She definitely shone like a bright star, and I was in for it all the way. Special kudos also has to go to Attilio Glaser for his sterling Pinkerton, and Thomas Lehmann for being such a virile sharpless, unless they forget about Karis Tucker's warm Sutsuki. Everybody managed to do so beautifully that I was on cloud 9. The conducting done by Yi-Chen was actually quite good, but there were also some occasions where she did sound a little bit out of focus, but she managed to pick it up all together. She was able to find some nuances here and there in terms of just trying to use some of the quieter moments as well as some of the moments that demand some tenderness, a lot of focus. And she was still able to engage the orchestra really well, although I would have wanted to have a little bit more clarity in her conducting. Nevertheless, I still have to give it to the chorus and the orchestra of the Deutsche Oper Berlin for pulling everything together, for pulling all the stops, and for being thorough professionals. Barno Ismatullaeva was a gorgeous Cho-Cho-san, helped by Pier Luigi Samaritani's production of Puccini's Madama Butterfly in all of its intricacy and all of its aesthetic beauty and its overall theatrical interest. She's also bolstered by a cavalcade of amazing superstars such as Attilio Glaser, Thomas Lehmann, Karis Tucker, Lucy Baker, Paul Min-hyung-ro, Burkhard Ulrich, and Jörg Schöne, just to name a few of the wonderful singers who have accompanied her. And for that, she deserves a whole lot of kudos and salutes for everything she had to accomplish as Cho-Cho-san. And for those of you who caught this performance of Puccini's Madama Butterfly at the Deutsche Oper Berlin, what did you think of it? Do you feel that Barno Ismatullaeva was excellent as Cho-Cho-san? Do you feel like she could improve on something with her overall vocalism? Was there another singer that you particularly loved in this opera? Or do you feel like the singing was not really to your liking? Please let me know in the comments below. Well, that's it for my review of Puccini's Madama Butterfly at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. Tune in next time for my review of Umberto Giordano's Andrea Chenier, also at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. So until then, happy holidays, everybody!